You have to really love what you're doing. You have to be very serious and good at it. And boy, you sure better bring a lot of good, talented people around you. I don't care who you are, you're not going to last long by yourself. I was in New York. I was already married. We were expecting our first child. I'm in college thinking I'm going to be a school teacher, but I came back to New York for the finals of the Ted Mack Amateur Hour. I had been a 3-time winner, and they brought all the 3-time winners back to, face off. And I sang. It went well. In fact, they were telling me later I was winning by the cards and letters. But since I had to stay in New York a few days, and I didn't know anybody, and I went over and auditioned for the Arthur Godfrey show, which I'd been seeing on Monday nights. It was a Monday. And they put me in a cold studio, and somebody who I couldn't see back in the control room, and just said, well, sing us something. And just like American Idol today, you just sing a cappella. So I sang something. I don't remember what it was. And they seemed to be favorably impressed. They said, well, pretty nice. Can you come back in about 3 weeks? I said, no, I can't. I'm expecting a child, and no, I won't be back. And I thought that was it. They said, no, well, okay, we'll put you on tonight. And so all of a sudden I had to scramble around, find somebody I vaguely knew or somebody else knew to be my talent scout. And that went on that night and won. And I thought, well, this is incredible. And then I get the call from the Ted Mack people that though I was winning the Ted Mack Amateur Hour in the votes, you can't win a professional show on Monday night and be declared an amateur winner on the following Saturday. And so I did four mornings, I think, on Arthur Godfrey's show and had blown a college scholarship. And I went back to Texas feeling that I'd blown it all. I once had a chance and I messed it up. But I did meet on the way home Randy Wood of Dot Records, and we shook hands over a hamburger, and he said, I'll find a song and I'll send to you in Texas and meet you in Chicago, and we'll make a record, which we did. And then that took me back then to the Arthur Godfrey show. Well, there was nobody bigger, and probably never been anybody since as big, having as much of an impact on television. As you say, Talent Scout show on Monday night, very high rated. Wednesday night hour, and it was produced, a regular full-scale big evening entertainment. And then 5 mornings a week, hour and a half on radio, and an hour of that was on television, simulcast. That's an hour and a half every day. He was everybody's friend, especially the ladies, because they just felt so good just being in his company, and he was so relaxed and so real and spontaneous. I mean, he would come in the morning, and he's about to do an hour and a half live on radio, and an hour of that's going to be live on television, and he arrives 2 minutes before the red light comes on, and comes in and sits down and ba bum ba bum, they start his theme song, and he has made no preparation at all, and he wings it and he didn't mind. And if you listen to him on radio, which is where he first made his huge impact, brought him to television, he was not afraid of silence, even on the radio. He'd say, let me look at this thing. What does it say? And there'd be silence. Well, I mean, he didn't feel like he had to fill every second with talk, but it grabbed you. And he was the same on television. And he was funny. He was a little bit, he was like Peck's bad boy a little mischievous. He loved to rib people. And if you got just a little bit salty, he didn't mind that at all. And so he was fun, endlessly fun. I had, a few hit records, just one right after the other, starting with the very first one. And now I was on Arthur Godfrey's show for about 1.5 years. I was in college at Columbia. People knew I was married. I was having kids, but I was still not long out of high school myself. And the agents came to see me one day, and my manager, and said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 21. You're going to be the youngest guy ever to have his own television show. Really? who's the sponsor? They said, Chesterfield Cigarettes. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I don't smoke. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. I said, you just sing your songs and they'll say, I said, but wait a minute. Now, I'm a young guy. I don't know that much about how television works, but I said, isn't the idea of sponsorship selling the product to, and in my case, if I'm the host, it's going to be a lot of kids, teenagers? You're thinking too much. Just sing your, well, I said, fellas, I'm sorry, I just can't do it. I don't smoke, and I'm not going to sell cigarettes to teenagers. So they looked at my manager like, hey, this guy's not for this business. And they went away. Well, a month or so later, they came back. They said, how old are you now? I said, I'm 21. You're still going to be the youngest guy ever to have his own television show. Really? Who's the sponsor? They said, Schlitz Beer. Well, it was the same thing. I said, guys, I'm sorry. And they really said to my manager, send this boy back to Tennessee. He's not for this business. And I thought they were right. I thought I was going to be a school teacher. But then, I don't know, about a month or 2 months later, same agents came back. We beat around the bush a little bit. And then they said, how old are you now? I said, I'm still 21. And they said, you got anything against Chevrolet? And I said, no, I'm driving one. And so I went to work for Chevrolet for 3 years and became their top salesman. And it was a very good relationship. It was, I'd done local television, and really you get to the network level, more people and more production, but you got to be ready when the red light comes on. And we rehearsed, we did dances, and we sang, and I had guest stars. And of course, while I'm on camera, I peripherally could see all the stagehands running and the lights and the sound and everybody getting the next stage or set ready and dancers getting in. I knew all this was going on, but I tried to, borrowing from and influenced by Arthur Godfrey, tried to really maintain a personal contact with that one viewer. I wasn't thinking of millions of people. I was thinking of one person sitting home watching me, and I wanted it to be that personal. So we did, but one evening we went on live. It was all live, and right from the start of the show, the microphone didn't work. I'm on camera singing my opening song, but you don't hear me. You hear the background voices, you hear the orchestra, and you see me moving my mouth, but you're not hearing me. And people are running around like crazy off camera, and somehow a mic had failed or not been plugged in. They're trying to swing over another big boom mic off another set. In the process, they knocked the whole set behind me down. And I never did until we went away to the first commercial. I never could be heard. And when we came back out of the commercial, they had it all plugged in and right now. And I just couldn't resist when the camera came back on me. Just to scare the sound man, I went, and the sound man's pulling his hair. I still can't hear him. And then we went on. But I guess it was my being young or something. I didn't feel that television was that sacred. I felt like I could have fun. Sure, we'd messed up. Everybody knew it. So, why act like we hadn't or try to ignore it? Have fun with it. And there was more than one time when things like that happen. When a whole set falls down behind you, you might as well have fun with it. There was something so electric and real about spontaneous live television. Everything now, and has been for years, is so prepared, so polished, that it just doesn't have, I think, that extra little excitement, the extra current that runs through from the performers to the viewers when they know it's live and that they know that some things can go wrong. There's just an extra energy I think you bring to it. Boy, you better be focused if it's live, because you're not going to have another chance. And so I do miss that. I think, we did great dramatic shows while I was coming along. There was a Playhouse 90 and Hallmark and other sponsors and their programs, and Kraft Theater. And those, they introduced people like Paul Newman and James Dean and so many great actors who would become legends, and they were doing bit parts or leads live in some pretty gripping, dramatic shows. It was like going to a play. You don't want to see a play on the screen. That's a movie. If it's a play, it's live and it's different. As our show rolled along for 3 years, of course, we had a who's who of show business coming through and appearing on the show. And as a, I'm a very young kid. I'm in college, but I'm getting to sing with Tony Bennett, Nat King Cole, Johnny Mathis, the Mills Brothers, Mel Torme. And, Chevrolet had dealerships throughout the South. and still in the mid-'50s and later in the '50s, though I was from the South, it just didn't occur to me that all these magnificent performers, because they were black, might cause problems in the South with the Chevrolet dealers. But they began to let me know that they were having problems, that some of the, Chevy users from way back were complaining to the Chevy dealers, we like that Chevy showroom, we like Pat Boone, but he has all those black performers on all the time. Well, they weren't saying that. And if if that keeps up, we may just not buy any more Chevrolets. I mean, they were really putting that kind of pressure on Chevrolet. And I understood. I didn't know what to do about it. And about that time, Harry Belafonte called me personally. He was the biggest entertainer in the world. And he said, I've seen you with Ella Fitzgerald and Johnny Mathis and Nat Cole and all, and I just wondered, would you like to have me come on your show and bring my singers? I said, is this really Harry Belafonte? I knew it was. Yes. And he said, if you like, we'll come. And I said, well, of course I would. Let me talk to Chevrolet and we'll get back to you and we'll pick the right time. Well, when I told them, I saw this real serious look come over their faces, and they said, we can't have Harry Belafonte on. I said, what are you talking about? He's the biggest entertainer in the world. Yeah, but he's sort of politically active, and a lot of the folks down south, he's rubbed them the wrong way, and they think he's a little uppity and whatever it is, and full of himself. And so, no, we don't. And I said, you're telling me I've got to go back to Harry Belafonte and say no thanks? Yeah. I said, well, then, I'm sorry, guys, it's not the Pat Boone Show, and you'll have to get someone else to take my place, because I'm not going back to Harry Belafonte and say, I can't have you on the show. I said, you give up your show because you, I said, yes, it's not my show. It's your show. You're telling me it's got my name on it, but I can't have this great entertainer. Well, come on, get serious. I said, I am serious. I'm not telling you how to run your business. I'm just saying I can't do it. And they said, well, will you stake your own reputation? Will you pledge and promise to us that if he's on the show, there won't be some kind of, controversial thing happen or said? I said, yes, I certainly won't, and I can even talk privately to Harry, and I believe he will not do anything except entertain. That's what this show is. All right, they said. So they very reluctantly agreed that I could have him on. I wish I could say it had happened, but when I got back to him, we started, we already had the shows booked with other entertainers, and the times we could have had Harry, he was booked, and this was in my 3rd season, and so it never happened. But I thought for a little while that I was just going to have to give up my own show, because it wouldn't have been my show. It wasn't the network, no, it was Chevrolet and their ad agency, and I understood. They were really taking heat from down south. I think things have changed a great deal, but I understood because I'm born in Jacksonville, Florida, raised in Nashville, and I had relatives writing, saying, we like your show, you're really singing good, but do you have to have all those black people on your show? And I mean, they're talking about Ella and Sammy Davis and Johnny Mathis, and this is my flesh and blood. These are my relatives. And I'd write back and say, what are you talking about? Didn't you see the stuff we did together? And it's just, we had to work as a country, as a people. We had to work our way through all that. And television and music helped tremendously, because the winning talent of these people and their personalities, and the fact that we could, in the entertainment business, share and enjoy each other, helped melt a lot of those animosities and the bigotry that there was. He was a journalist, as you know, and he was the guy that figured if you brought a bunch of talent together, there could be a good television show. Howard Cosell tried it later, and it just didn't have the same feeling. But it might have had if they'd given him more time to develop. But back then, Ed Sullivan had no competition, and he was great at knowing who the audience might like to hear and see. And so, of course, he brought on the Beatles, and he brought on performer after performer, and if they went over well, he'd have them back many times. I was startled. Somebody sent me a CD, said, can we put out this CD of your songs from the Ed Sullivan Show? And I said, well, I don't think, I didn't do it enough times for there to be. Oh yeah, you were on 12 times. I was? I didn't remember that. But I'm very proud of the CD that they put together of some of the best performances, a whole CD full, and there were others as well. So he had a peculiar, you might call it a genius, because it was a radar kind of thing. He knew what the audience would like to see and hear, and he brought it to them. Well, when I was on with him, my wife and daughters had joined me in my show, and there was a method to my madness there. I had 4 pretty teenage daughters, only 3.5 years apart, and I had to travel a lot, so, and I knew they could sing. I knew my wife could, the daughter of Red Foley. So we formed a family act so I could keep my daughters in sight at all times. And Flip, he loved having us on, and he treated us with a great sense of humor and treated us with respect, gave us a lot of time to perform and do sketches with him. So I remember Sugar Ray Robinson was on with us. And he was just fun. Interestingly, his son is a well-respected caddy out at LA Country Club. And I see him from time. He looks just like his dad, but he loves golf, and he's a caddy. Flip just came up with a character, or some characters, and an approach at a time when not many black comedians could have made it, but he was so welcome because he transcended. He could play with his blackness, Geraldine and all that, those characters, but there was something gentle and kind and not confrontive at all about him, so he was welcome anywhere. I think you need to be warm and personal. Even Lawrence Welk, who seems so stiff, he danced with the ladies, and his shows are still, his show is still on a 1, a 2, a 3. Okay, boys, be on your toes. And now the lovely champagne lady. But that was him. He was real, and he would dance with the lady. He thoroughly enjoyed it. He played his accordion or whatever he did. He loved his performers. He loved presenting the music. So you have to, I think, for it to wear well, you have to really love what you're doing. You have to be very serious and good at it. And boy, you sure better bring a lot of good, talented people around you. I don't care who you are. You're not going to last long by yourself.